I'll try to make this as apolitical as I can. And I put this out in a tweet about 3 weeks ago. This is the only thing I would say on this. People are allowed to be anti-vax. Players are allowed to not want to get the vaccine and be against it. But this is one thing everyone should just acknowledge. The only reason we're playing football this year, the only reason, is because there's a vaccine. So you can be a CFL player and be anti-vax and not want to be vaccinated. But if all the players in the league had that attitude, there wouldn't be any football. And if the vaccine had not been developed, we wouldn't be playing football this season.
So let's bring in Dave Naylor now. And on the biggest news that I woke up to, I guess it was announced last night by the Canadian Football League. David, let's start there. The TSN CFL Insider. The outbreak in Edmonton is causing the postponement of this Thursday's game against Toronto. What do we know?
Well, we know that multiple players have tested positive. We know that the commissioner made the call within the commissioner's powers, anticipating that the health officials in Edmonton and Alberta we're going to force them to postpone this game anyway. And I think when you're postponing the game, as soon as you know the game's not going to happen, you make that call, which was why the call was made. I don't think the league is necessarily looking to drop news on a Sunday night at 11 o'clock. But I think once they knew, it behooved them to share that with everyone. So there is everybody, the Elks is in isolation. There's no one meeting at the facility. There's no practices scheduled. They are going to be tested daily. It's unclear right now how many negative tests you would have to go through before they could go back to resuming normal activities. But clearly it was a situation where it would have been very, very difficult, I think, to put this game on Thursday. And this is the first encounter of this. And Rod, rightly so, the focus has been on the field, and we've been tearing up the games and breaking them down and talking about great performances and new players in the league. But I can tell you, while the fans may not have been thinking about this, I think the teams and the league were very cognizant of this possibility and very worried about this possibility. And now it's come to bear.
Of course, but Dave, let's just jump into it for a little bit, because my phone's been going off with, same as yours, we talked to a lot of the same people, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about the bad news. They're playing, the games have been great, forget it. And I think every league's that. It's not just the CFL, right? But then this happens. So I guess I would assume you're being asked the same questions, like how many players have tested positive? What's the vaccination percentage on the Edmonton Elks? And I'm like, I don't know the answers to those questions. Are you getting asked those same questions?
Those same things. And I'm actually just sent off, an email shortly before I got on this show, to try to get a sense of not just what the answers to those questions are, but to be let in on what the answers to those questions are, because we haven't had this before. So we're not clear how much the team and the league is going to share with us. And of course, this goes into, there's going to be some challenges rescheduling this game. One, just the nature of the CFL schedule this year. Two, there are no prescribed bye weeks. I mean, there are teams that have bye weeks because of the fact that, there's only nine teams in the league. Everybody's got a bye week some week, but there are no weeks where teams are given a week off like there are normally in the schedule. You've also got stadium availability issues, which becomes the biggest thing, and that is always an issue at BMO Field. So, there's no guarantee. And of course, the team that has the outbreak would forfeit, but then you get to the next issue of whether or not people are going to get paid if this game isn't played. And again, if my understanding of the league's policy on this is correct, any team that doesn't have 85% of its players with at least one shot, not necessarily both, but one shot, you're not getting paid, whether the outbreak was on your team or not. So this is all of these things I think were set up to try to encourage players to get vaccinated. The latest one that we reported on the pregame show Friday night is concern in the league about unvaccinated players able to get on airplanes once we get to late October. And I know I got a million tweets from people saying they travel charter. Yes, they do travel charter for the most part. But I can tell you, the teams have been given zero assurance that charters will not be under this policy. And if you read the mood of the government right now, it doesn't seem to be making much of a mood to make accommodations to make life convenient for people who aren't vaccinated. So there's a few other COVID-related issues on the league's horizon.
Yes, but it's not just a CFL thing. Sam McGuavin was in COVID protocol for like 3-4 days last week, and then comes out and plays and registers 4 sacks. Look at Montreal Canadiens, Dominic Ducharme missing 2 weeks in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So it's not just a CFL thing, right?
No, by no means. I think that the nature of it is, and the reason this will get a lot of attention, is in basketball, in baseball, in hockey, you can reschedule games. They play 3 and 4 nights sometimes. Baseball plays every day. It's you've just got so much more flexibility. And because the NFL never had to cancel a game, they came close a couple of times. This is going to be the first one where you've looked at an actual postponement that, again, may or may not be played. This certainly happened all over the map in college football in the United States last year. I mean, I was just looking up teams that I was remembering that only played 3 games because they started late and then they had some COVID cancellations. So, yeah, you're right. This is not a CFL phenomenon, but I think just the nature of football makes this so much more difficult, and it's a big thing. It's this could bear in the standings. Certainly could bear on the players' pocketbooks.
Well, I think everybody's worn out by it, but we're not done yet. And you saw MLSC last week saying all their games are going to require vaccination proof. That's Leafs, Raptors, Toronto FC, Argos, blah, blah, blah. And now it looks like Ottawa's the same. Why is it taking so long?
Hamilton announced as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's been, here's why I think it's taken so long. I think 3 to 4 weeks ago, this is how fast stuff changes. I think if you'd asked the team presidents in Ontario, what do you think the fall is going to be like? And they would have said, well, we're going to get our stadiums opened up by late August, and we'll be able to put, we should have a full crowd for Labor Day, Argos Ticats, and the Red Blacks should be able to put 20,000 in. I think that's what they thought was coming. Because when the vaccine came in, the cases started getting very, very low, and they just figured it was a matter of time until we get to Ontario stage 4. What happened is Ontario was eligible to go to stage 4 on August 6th. They didn't go. And then the sport minister communicated to the teams, hey, we're not going anytime soon, so don't get planned for open stadiums. So that's where the teams, I think, said, okay, why don't we all require vaccinations or negative COVID tests? And once we establish that, then maybe we can go back to the government and say, can we have the Manitoba deal? And the Manitoba deal was, okay, everybody's got to be vaccinated, because that came from the province of Manitoba. That was not a Blue Bomber idea. But when the province of Manitoba came to them with that, the Blue Bombers came back and said, okay, we understand everybody's got to be vaccinated, but if everybody's vaccinated, we don't need limits, right? And the province said, right. So that's why they have no stadium limit in Manitoba. I think you'll see all of the teams in Ontario push for the same thing, or at least push for higher limits. And I'm talking about getting into the fall with Blue Jays or with Raptors and Maple Leafs as well, that they'll make the argument that the Blue Bombers made, saying, we understand everybody here is either a negative test or is fully vaxxed. Please raise our limits. Because, if you play this out long enough, Rod, think about it. I'm not sure Ontario's coming out of stage 3 this fall at all. I mean, we're at 600 in some cases today. The number's been trending up and up and up and up and up. Are we going to have a Grey Cup with 15,000 people there? I mean, if we're still in stage 3, that would be the reality, unless they can, are the Leafs and Raptors going to play games in front of 1,000 people all season? I think, to me, that's got to be the strategy here. And I don't know whether the province will say, okay. I mean, it's the same issue in Montreal, where they're going to bring in the vaccine requirement in September, and the Owls have been given no assurance that is going to translate into a higher capacity. They may be stuck at 13 all fall. And I think that this is going to be hard on the teams in the East, because all of their revenue projections and their hopes, at least, were based on Ontario getting to that stage 4 and having that higher capacity. And it may or may not happen.
Yep. And I guess what we couldn't have gambled on or planned for was the amount of people that don't want to get vaccinated. I don't mind saying that we are fully vaccinated. I didn't think this would be a thing.
Well, and look, I recognize it's personal, but I also can suggest that there's some very frustrated people at the CFL head office today, probably, because they've been doing everything they can. This is I'll try to make this as apolitical as I can. And I put this out in a tweet about 3 weeks ago. This is the only thing I would say on this. People are allowed to be anti-vax. Players are allowed to not want to get the vaccine and be against it. But this is one thing everyone should just acknowledge. The only reason we're playing football this year, the only reason, is because there's a vaccine. So you can be a CFL player and be anti-vax and not want to be vaccinated. But if all the players in the league had that attitude, there wouldn't be any football. And if the vaccine had not been developed, we wouldn't be playing football this season. So again, without taking it any further than that, that's the reality. It's the key that unlocks the season, but it's also the key that can shut down the season.
Very well said. Our viewers are going insane, Dave. Do you have a big face shield on in front of you? What is this plastic thing going on, plexiglass in front of you? What do you got going on there? And
show for a moment.
there we go.
I'm good.
What do you got
Okay,
going
I'm
on
back.
for what do you got going on for plastic there? It looks like you're behind the plexiglass or something.
No, behind me, you mean?
No, in front of you, between the camera and you.
Oh, I don't know. I can't tell. I don't have my glasses on.
Oh, maybe it's just a glare.
How about?
I don't know.
I think it's just light. It's the glare. Yeah. How's that? Is that better glare now?
Yeah. It's kind of. Does it not look like there's saran wrap between us?
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I saw this. I can see this now. How about that? What if I go outside?
It's not a problem. It just looks like you're overly. It just looks like you're overly safe, David. No.
In a bubble.
Yeah,
How about
it looks
right
like you're
now?
in a bubble. Can you breathe?
There we go. How's that? Better?
You're good. It was all good.
This is amazing.
It looked like you had a huge plastic shield on in front of you. That's all.
This is
That's not a
amazing
good
television.
look, though. That's not a good look. I think this is a better look.
That looks amazing now. And while we have a couple minutes left, the football's been pretty good, Dave. Highly unpredictable football games. Let's just talk about that for a second.
It has, and I think it's been entertaining. Like there's some things there've been some games that have bogged down a little bit, but I think there's one of the things I love about CFL football, whether it's looking at a season or within a game itself, it's its unpredictability. That to me is one of the most enduring qualities of CFL football, and I thought this season is going to deliver that to us in spades, and it has. I mean, I don't think Saskatchewan at 3-0 is a shock, but I mean, you look at Calgary losing their first two with Bo Levi Mitchell, and of course he was hurt, and then getting behind in that game against Montreal. And Montreal at that point, who had rolled over Edmonton, then everything turns. I think we're all waiting to see what the Hamilton Tiger Cats are going to be. I'm not surprised that Edmonton got off the mat. I thought a lot of their problems were probably, were fixable in that, and they played pretty well on defense. They could move the ball, they just couldn't get into the end zone. So I wasn't shocked that they won that game at BC. And like that Argonaut win, as much as an Argonaut win can make Toronto buzz, and that's, as we all understand, to a limited degree, there was a lot of buzz just coming out of that stadium. I sat in the stands on Saturday. It was just under 10,000 crowd, which is maybe about what you'd expect. But the energy, the enthusiasm, and just the feeling in the park that day, I think it's actually, I sometimes think the Argos are a bit cursed, because a lot of times they've had major news and the Leafs do something like the same time or something else happens. We often joke about it, like, holy smoke. So here they go out on a Saturday, they put up big points. The most entertaining game I've been to in BMO Field in God knows how long. Like, never mind they won or lost. It was entertaining football. They beat the Bombers. They create some buzz. And, hey, we get to do it 5 days again. In 5 days later, let's keep this momentum going in Toronto with the Argonauts, and the game shut down for COVID. Okay. So, sometimes you just can't get the breaks don't go your way. But I think it has been an entertaining start to the season, very much so.
Yes, well, it would be nice if everything that we saw was exactly the way that it is. And I'm just going to stay in that fairy land and watch the games and yourself and enjoy it and hope that we don't have any more delays. Wonderful visit, David. Thank you. Keep up the great work. We're watching every day.
My pleasure, Ryan. I got to tell you, it feels great to be out of the plastic bubble wrapper.
Okay. You can breathe. Thanks, Dave. Dave Naylor joining us from Toronto, the CFL TSN.
That was
Insider.
great
That was funny,
television.
wasn't it? Well, I was a little worried, too.
Yeah.
It looked like there was a huge plastic shield up between him and his phone.
Somebody thought maybe he didn't remove the plastic when he bought the phone brand new, right?
Everybody was wondering.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.